Okay, so this is a personal list of my top 10 characters in the 7 Deadly Sins. I'm gonna look at all of them through a more sarcastic and a bit more vague. So if there's something that I missed, it's probably not because I forgot about it. It's mostly that I didn't want to make this video too long, like an hour or two, or just where I did not care too much about whatever that happened. So if you want to read a more detailed version, it'll be in the description below. So yes, I did think of making a 10 videos of these 10 individual characters, but I made the decision that making 10 of them was impossible. I already made 2 and like, they're like 10 minutes and they're like simple characters. And the other characters are going to take like at least 30 minutes, so I doubt anyone's going to be really interested in sit through them because it's just going to be boring, that's it. And I will also not very touch the movies or for Knights of the Apocalypse because I don't really care about them. And the power scaling from the Curse by Light was just gross because they didn't make any sense at all. And in this video, there will be some more honorable mentions, and I'll just get a more short summary of all of them. Except for Rueduciel, because I plan and will eventually make an extensive video talking about him, because I thought he was honestly the most interesting character in the series. And my honorable mentions are Elizabeth, Monspeed, and Meluscula. To be completely honest, I think this Elizabeth was a really good character. And she didn't appear for a very long time, but she proved to be strong, but not overpowered. And look at Stigma. You see Russo, this guy was a leader. I mean, everyone knows this. But you can easily say that Elizabeth was a very close second. And she did stood up to Russo when she did not like what she was doing, or what he was doing mostly. And there was enough moments in this war too, but she kind of slowly faded in the background to become a healer again, I guess. Um, if there is a visual definition of GOAT, it's Modspeed. He's very calm and very smart. He's also very powerful, but he's not broken or powered in any way. Problem is just that he doesn't really do enough and was kind of a jobber for most of the series. His fight against Estarossa was actually pretty dope until some dumb bitch walked him for no reason. Did you this happens a few panels and she got her butt kicked and tried to do it again. And it was so bad that even everyone gave Tarmian a ton of shit, but he at least had more reason and people still gave him shit for it. Okay, so Melska is right at 11, and honestly I think she's kind of like 10/11 at me, and I'm ready to switch her for my number 10 at like almost like any time. And instead I'll just go over really quick why I like this character a lot. Her personality is just playful and fun. Like, she's not as crazy Galand, but she was actually pretty chill and like, yeah, she was like not as fun Galand, but still a fun character. And she is a character that did not let her power level speak like how strong he was. Like in this fight, she did so many crazy things, and I don't think you can say that like other members of the Ten Commandments, only a few other members of Ten Commandments could do what she did. And unlike most female anime characters, not just this series, she did not rely on crazy romantic interests or anything. She was not perfect, obviously, but she was definitely a character that was powerful, never had to redeem herself to be a good person, and she just did her job, and I guess most bitches like her because of her appearance. Okay, so I initially had this character a lot higher, and I was debating to actually replace him in my last one. Only reason why he's here is because there's actually a lot to talk about him, and that's kind of it. And it's mostly the things, like the really fucked up thing he has done. And Zeldris was honestly not that interesting of a character. He was not horrible, but he was actually pretty damn linear. Only thing I think that was really worth noting was that he has a better version with his brother, and his version with Gowther was kind of funny. While some other characters were fine from just not changing, Zeldris was just really linear bland, and it started that from his debut chapter all the way to the end. And I will say that he was always more interesting than Elaine, actually by a lot, because Elaine was a character that got so many screen time, and she was like horrendously boring. Another reason why I have Zeldris this high up is because of this chapter. Like, I know, like, they try to make him look strong and badass, but I was laughing my fucking ass off, because I saw that he did not have any friends. In terms of power, Zeldris is insanely powerful. He's a contender for top 10, but like, I don't think you can say for sure, but he can fight a lot of people in the top 10, or he's just right outside at like 11 or 12. I actually do have a theory that he is supposed to be slightly above your average 10 command member, and Mael was supposed to be untouchable in comparison. But with more feats that you see from Zeldris, and especially from that movie that was really weird in terms of power scaling, like, you would think that if they didn't show that fight, it would be a lot closer. Like, a lot closer, not like this. Like, a lot closer. And it was really weird because, like, he actually went from his getting his butt kicked for many, many chapters, And then he started having insane feats the moment he lost his commandment, which is actually very weird as well. For some of his like OP powers, he has God, which is like anti-magic, but he needs to activate it and it's not his, and I guess he lost it now. Omnis Nebula, which is actually very similar to Tenno's Pain ability from Naruto, and they're also both leaders of their respective group. He's a pretty good swordsman and insane stamina, and most importantly, he actually does not fuck around battles. He's definitely a very solid fighter to have. He's not broken like true Magic Mael does, but he's someone that can definitely like screw you over if just underestimate him. I don't know, just me, but Zeldris kind of does put a serious face, but in reality he kind of does care a little bit for his clansmates or like the people that was in his clan. He has shown to not punish Melska, which she was indirectly the person that let Gowther out. He kind of let Monster and Dairy just dip, like, because Estarossa actually chased them down, and like, I think Zeldris could have done the same thing too. And he actually let Gloxinia and Rueduciel go, even though he was low on like manpower and a few more. He's more so a person that will not intervene him if you're in his way. He's a very obedient soldier and will do anything for Gowther. On paper, that sounds very sweet and like some like, I don't fucking know what's that called. It's like some romantic shit, but like, he was the executioner and killed many people to protect his vision with someone. I don't know about that, Chief. Like, you can say that he was being controlled, but like, does that mean that Rueduciel's not as bad or Mael's not as bad because of their belief? Like, you just can't say that. What he did was still fucked up. And I know Mael's was a garbage older brother, but I don't think it justifies his reasoning, and it shouldn't be. Okay, so surprisingly, Zeldris was a character that showed up for very long, but I just don't really have a lot to say to him. I can dig deeper of like, oh, where he ranks and like who is he strong, etc. to like milk time, but like yeah, I I don't know. It's really weird. I think the fact that he never actually felt bad for what he did really says a lot about him. Like, he enslaved people, murdered people. Like, you get, yeah, like, oh yeah, he listened to Demon King, but like, that's still, like, messed up, dude. Like, even Rueduciel, people that gave him a lot of shit, like, he eventually did feel bad for his action and tried to, like, redeem himself, and Zeldris just never did. He straight up just says, like, oh, Mildas, you should pay for my drink. Okay, so for most of these lists, I actually do pick characters based on their personality, cool powers, or a combination of both. And WoW has insane power and shows up for around 6 chapters in the 300 whatever chapters we had. Yes, you heard me right. But I still am like enough to rank him this high because I just thought he was a badass. WoW is insanely powerful. To give you a perspective where I would actually put him, I would say that he could fight Mael or Rueduciel and would challenge a good amount of people in the top 10. Yes, his ratio is like 0 and like 18,000 like something, but like I would like just remember take in consider that the ruler actually counters WoW pretty really bad. Like, his biggest problem was that he has one really good tool, which is his physical offense, and not really good at everything else, but his physical offense is like insane. Like, for Portal is like 8 gates. Like, it makes him like so much stronger. The only problem is that it doesn't last very long. Okay, Mael is probably one of these most linear character in the series, or at least like one of the most linear. He just cares about Mael and that's it, and I guess that's fine, I guess. But like, probably my favorite panel is this one, where he actually does not give a shit and asks Mael what happened to Estarossa. Okay, there just isn't really much to say about WoW other than he is straight up a badass, and for some reason he actually didn't die and is somehow alive. So if he trains Hawk and like they're like at least somehow equal, and the duo actually fights against like Chaos Arthur, it will be a super not really close fight, but like it wouldn't be a blow up. That's how insane like WoW is. Probably surprised for people to see that I have Bond ranked this low, but I just think this just speaks to how much people do like Bond, and I think he actually deserves it. I have a lot of sense. He and Gowther, yes, Gowther has the best development. I know everyone talks about Elaine and Bond version for like at least 50 million times now, but like, first she was way over than Bond, and the worst part was how boring and bland their relationship goes. Like, this is like they do this like all the time, so here's like an example of it. Bond would say something like, I'm gonna save you. Elaine says something like, oh, you don't have to, and then Bond says, I promise I will. And this shit just goes on repeat for every reason, and like nothing ever changes. It is extremely boring. Bond actually started pretty decent in Season 1, and after he fight against Galand, he started to look very bad. It was so bad that King and Chandler both called him garbage in the same fight. But thankfully, Bond was able to get some crazy redemption in the purgatory. He went from irrelevant to like who's Bond like thing, and to like Bond is back. And Bond is mostly a physical powerhouse, which is actually very similar case to Wild. But Bond is slightly more diversified than Wild. He's something definitely that you can say that he's at the very bottom of the top 10 as well. Bond is someone who had a really rough past and often just tries to be a goofball. There are some moments of Bond being serious, and you can just see that. And from those horrific experiences, Bond just wants to live a better life, get drunk, and make good food, I guess. He has been through the lowest of lows and the highest of highs. He went from killing Meliodas to save Elaine he was willing to let Elaine die to save Meliodas. So yeah, that is a pretty big jump. Yes, Bond main relationship with Meliodas and with Elaine are very detailed, but for everyone else, it just felt like he just knew them. That's kind of it. Bond was a great character. Only thing that I didn't really like was that he was kind of distant from the rest of the Sins, but this is not strictly a Bond problem, it was a few Sins problem. Bond felt like a good friend. When he was as low as we felt bad, we didn't laugh at him like he was another pink-haired female anime protagonist. We wanted to see him come back for redemption, and he did. There will be times for disagreements and fights, but at the end of the day, there will be drinks and he will cook you a nice dinner. And what more can you ask from a homie? Best girl Gloxinia. By the end of the series, Gloxinia is just straight up a weaker version of King. But I mean, like, he still has like Drop of Life, which is like crazy. Like, it has limit, but it is still no doubt and holds up to be like one of the best moves in the series. Pete and Dro, or Dortler, whatever you call them, are easily, if not the best redemption in the characters in the series by far. Their changes made a lot of sense and it complemented with the storyline. It didn't like blow up any story or anything. And here's a few things that they did that was very bad. They abandoned the clan, created a tournament that eats souls of the winner, and participated in killing Monas, a former friend. And when you do things like this, it is very difficult to go back. You can tell both of them felt awful, but they just kept going because they did not see any hope and was willing to be a mindless soldier serving the demon clan. And King and Diane were really the ones that told them that like there's still hope, and at the end they were willing to go as far to die for them. Gloxinia and Dro were so overlooked as characters. Yes, they were not perfect and had that many screen time, but the fights they had were more than just frank fists. The fights with Meliodas was a really good one, honestly. Former friends, Fairy and Giant joining the demon side, and the demon who joined the other side. And none of the like crazy like the most boring dialogue. Why do you turn out like this? Because all that bullshit. Because their actions spoke louder than any words that they could have said. They also had a lot of themes and symbols that showed that they were dead on the inside. I actually have a little fear that when Gowther had the black eyes, he was an empty person, and as soon as he got rid of the commandments, his color changed. And so did Gloxinia as a person. And their final battle against Chandler was a blow-up. They did some damage, but yeah, it was terrible, but yet they still won in some ways. They were able to protect their former friends, being Elizabeth and Meliodas, and their future generation, being King and Diane. And most importantly, they can finally do something, just something, to atone for their sins. And also, have you seen Dro's symbol? Man is packing a baker. Worthless fuck. Okay, he's still worthless fuck, but to be fair to Fraudrin, someone had to be dead last of the Ten Commandments, which is like, Ten Commandments is a very strong team. And he's not so weak by a large margin that he's an actual liability. His powers are just, okay, like, other people just have like hacks, and full size is just straight up not one of them. Okay, in this perspective, he's finally no longer a worthless fluke. And honestly, he is very integral and crucial to the Ten Commandments' return. His planning made him one of the smartest person in the series. Sure, you can put like Wheelchair Gowther and Mael above him because they're just really smart, but like, I think Fraudrin should be at least in the conversation to be near these people. He's also very calm and careful. This could be due to the fact that he knows that he's a worthless fuck. No, like, actually not kidding, he actually thinks that. And even though he was a low soldier, he still showed that he actually does care for Dreyfus and Grimore, people that he brainwashed and messed over. Fraudrin showed that you did not need any crazy OP power to shape the story. He brought so much to the table with his intelligence planning, and he had a major influence on season 1, and he was still influencing the story It was dwindling, but he was still influencing in the later arcs. And Fraudrin showed that he did not need to be redeemed to be a good person where he died. He only showed that he cared for Greer more. He was still a criminal and still had to pay for his crimes. A very simple, but a great way as well to end his character's journey. Probably a big surprise why he's up there, but this is just a nice old man. Bartra power level is really eh. 1k is not horrible, but have fun comparing to someone like 6-digit power levels. But what made Bartra stand up and remain relevant for a very long time is vision. It allows Bartra to see into the future, which is very useful. Like, come on, you can see the future, how's that not useful? But there are some drawbacks. 2 major ones I think I can really count. It is very inconsistent and it appears randomly and it is not super clear. So Bartra usually, it's kind of like he's like given a riddle and he tried to cipher the message, but hey, it is still very valuable. One-off and not the nicest person in this series. I'm too lazy and here, I just have this random picture. I listed all the fuck shit that happens here, so there it is. And yet, he is still an all-around good person. He was never a corrupted king, did not force people what they do because he was the king, and he actually forgave all the knights in season 1. However, he was still getting messed up even after all those good deeds. Elizabeth was straight about to die, and Margaret was being possessed by Rueduciel. Yeah, this guy. And who cares about her cut? She looks gone anyways. Bartra was never super impactful or powerful or anything. It was just a nice person trying to do the right thing, and life somehow always finds a way to screw him over, and over again. I have honestly nothing but just respect for Bartra, and hopefully he can spend the rest of his life in peace. Galand. After Fraudrin, Galand just says very confidently as the second weakest member of the 10 Commandments. Similar case to Galand tools are good, just not broken. He actually some insane feats in the war by throwing an arc back at Suriel, and Escanor just stopped him. But again, as Escanor, he doesn't really care about logic and like kind of freestyle his way in the stories. And also after like 5 years, his entrance is still brutal and horrifying. Also, this is a very old Galand. He was like 9 years like from dying. So yeah, good job beating up an old man. Galand does not give a fuck. Maybe he gives them, but he's too old to work hard. He and Mascot are friendship goals. Like I mean, who would have liked Boomer like that? He looks so fun. Okay, compared to a lot of characters that have depth, OP powers, and some other qualities, Galand sure has none of that. But he's just a simple character that likes to have fun, and sometimes it's just better to simplify a character than to overcomplicate one. I have so much to say about this character that I have an entire video dedicated for him. From looking at this one, you'll be probably surprised I was number 3, but I would honestly say that one thing that kind of held him back was that he really peaked in his debut chapters and kind of fell off a bit then, but I still have him number 3 very high. I think that he is one of these most complex, interesting, and intelligent characters in the series by far. And if you don't want to watch it and want a TLDR version of this video, Rueduciel's not a good or bad character. He is a very loyal soldier that just served the supreme deity. This entry is a bit weird because I put Mael and Estarossa in the same spot. The main reason why I put them in the same slot is because of the purpose of the section I typed about a year ago, and I mean come on, they're basically the same person. Estarossa is a valid balance in the 10 Commandments. While I do think that he's a top 3, there's a lot of vigor and hypothetical that can change his placing, like Kusek saying he's equal or better than Zeldris, Monspe holding him down, etc. things, but I think the fact that you're in the conversation for top 3 should speak for itself. And Estarossa became stronger after 10 Commandments. After having free, he was actually able to rape Suriel and Tarmiel. They were in the vessel forms apart, but still, he looked unstoppable, and he also seems unkillable. Like his survivability is pretty nuts. If you thought Estarossa was strong, he's actually just a direct upgrade. There's no anything about it. And Mael was a monster with 4 commandments, which is saying something because those things were killing him mentally and physically, and he was still able to do damage and survive through all that. Yeah, nice feat of beating a mental patient king. Yeah, nice feat there. And Mael does get a lot of hype as the strongest Archangel Mael does equals, and he does get snubbed quite often. Trading him out for Escanor made 0 sense, because Mael is actually just straight up better than Escanor and 99% of the cast. Like, you cannot say this Escanor on the verge of dying is going to be better than the strongest Archangels. It does not make sense whatsoever. Like, it made zero sense why he was there. And aside from the sunshine tug of war between Mael and Escanor, Mael has this one crazy feat of blowing up the Demon King. I mean, not the Demon King, the original demon. And there's some things that happen, like the original demon was indecisive, they're greedy and try to build up crisis, but it is still very impressive. And I don't think you can count on like maybe 2 hands of people that can do this type of things. And unfortunately, Mao does not have a lot more opportunity to show us why he was the Archangel. Like what is this? Like, why is he losing to red demons? Estarossa straight up does not give a shit, and he does whatever he wants. Like him or hate him, Estarossa wants an unexpected surprise, but a pretty welcoming one. He took the storyline and actually really molded it into his liking. Estarossa is a ruthless, sadistic, and surprisingly cocky as well. Okay, I think Mao was made this way by Gowther on purpose because they're both very different, like, I guess, personas. Actually, perhaps the contrary. Mao is a brainwashed war soldier that believed that what he was doing was for the greater good, and in fact some of his attacks were used to help people. The arrows of salvation was that so the demons don't feel any pain when they die, and they can form reincarnation so they can be revived not as impure souls, so they can be non-demons when they revive. And also, it didn't help that everyone around Mao was actually like murderers, like serial killers. And Rueduciel told him that killing demons were fine because they were impure souls. Like, let that sink for a second. It is a very messed up mindset. And with how Gowther eventually made Estarossa, it is a big punishing to Mael. He flipped him upside down and made Mael into the person that he hated the most. There's nothing I really want about Estarossa because there's nothing more needed to be said, but there's quite a bit to talk about Mael. Mael's suffering from being overhyped and sharing grace with a main character. Honestly, what should have happened to Mael was that they should have just like let him die after overexhausting himself with 4 commandments. They hinted so many times, and like he would die or at least have some massive injury, so it made more sense for Escanor to like actually take over him again, and his face just gets screwed over like this. And aside from that, I do find Mael to be a very interesting character. Estarossa was a racing car with no brakes, and we saw the car crash, like literally pretty bad. And Mael was a character that got hit hard with reality check. Everything he learned in his life was false, and the commandments was literally killing him. Yeah, how dare he not join the final fight? Like Elizabeth told him, like he liked Elizabeth, and like Elizabeth wanted to help him out someone she likes. Like, how dare he not help them? And aside from all that stuff, I think Mael is a bit more relatable than people like to think or give credit to, because many people refuse to look things from other perspective because they have been believing the same thing for years or even decades. So when you're telling that they're wrong, they're too stubborn to accept that their thinking may not be always right, because what else do they have otherwise? And I think Mael was a prime example of the situation. Like, he had to know what he was doing was not 100% right, and it was a rude awakening. But he lived too long to accept that he was wrong, because, come on, he kind of probably, had some doubts in his mind when he was killing those demons. And when he accepted it, he finally realized what he was really doing. Similar to the case of Mael and Estarossa, I decided to these 2 go first because of how I structured that section I made. He is a very special character and he only appears in flashback. He is insanely powerful, broken, and was integral to the series. His doll has some insane fates, and Wheelchair, yes, Wheelchair is a straight upgrade. Aside from his power, he's an enigma. Dan thought that he was a great guy, and he does use his life force to stop the war. However, he thought that people dying was the sound of art. Sergeant Terminal thought that he was cold-blooded, and what he did to Mael was ruthless. One of the scariest and dangerous fighters in the series since its debut chapter until to the very end. The series had to introduce a lot of characters and insane powers to keep some people relevant. And I guess Gowther remembers something, and he kept his relevancy throughout the entire time. And Gowther has mind abilities. I think that just speaks for itself. Not only does he have an insane potential, he has shown that he is actually relevant every single battle he's in. For example, he was extremely important in the war, especially when he was against the Demon King. And if you think Gowther was only useful for his mind ability, you will be surprised at his other feats. He's actually surprisingly pretty fast. He was able to yank Elizabeth away from the Demon King attack and was able to cast a spell all Mael in the air. Oh yeah, he also did this missing an arm, glasses, and eyes. He also tanked Chandler Absolute Order and survived. He also used the kill switch ring to turn off Ruler. Like, honestly, there's nothing stopping Gowther, and I think it is pretty crazy that he and Dian are often considered the weaker members of the Sins. Yes, Gowther may be struggling in the 1v1 fighter department, but he's someone that can win any battle if you just underestimate him. If you compare Gowther to his first and final appearance, it's almost like well, maybe they're not two different characters, but you can see that he went for a long way. He and Bond had the best storytelling and character development out of all the Sins, and it's by a huge margin, and there's no contest. He went from unreliable trippy to reliable and the greatest teammate. He's a Sin that actually kind of became friends with everyone. With King Dian, they had a really rocky start, but they developed their relation as a teammate. Mael was pretty obvious, like, come on. Mael was a mutual respect for each other. Estarossa one of, if not the only person that actually understand and communicate with Estarossa. Estarossa actually did respect Gowther so much that he actually took an L against him, and ran to get him even though he was in this shitty form. Bond was probably the only Sin that he was not very close with, but I guess that's fine. Gowther's journey was interesting. Since the development, I always just put my smile on my face. His appeal was like kind of that awkward friend that didn't know how to read the room, to someone that would go as far to sacrifice his life to protect the comrade he cares, not once, but multiple times. And Gowther is not a character not for everyone, and that's okay. You can hate on Gowther, come on, how can you hate on Rueduciel? Gowther, dude was so cool, and Gowther is not perfect, and will never be. He still has done some messed up things in the past, like he brainwashed Galand and Zeal and like a kid. That is like really messed up. And also Kid was blushing like, huh? Like what the fuck? I mean, and hopefully he'll never use his mind abilities to mess up kids again. Oh. Okay, so this video is over, but I guess this is like a final message whatever. So like if you don't want to listen, just skip it. If you like this video, that's cool, I guess. I don't even want to like say the classic, like the free classic things, because this will probably be the last time I make videos like this, and other than this one. And if so you hate these videos, that's good news, I guess. I don't know. I was trying to make like 10 individual detailed videos for all 10 characters, but I just gave up on it. I cannot imagine putting so much time in it and have no one care about it, because it's like, all these is my opinion after all. Maybe I'll make a Tristan video in the future. I just think him freaking out and his reaction are just funny.